Look, I'm Jess. I crunch numbers for a living, and I guess I'm doing alright for myself. I've got this kid, Alex, a real bright spark, keeps asking questions about everything under the sun. Then there's my other half, Mike. He runs the show at some warehouse, not the career of his dreams, but it pays some of the bills. And it's just enough for Mike, he's not the type to chase more. Our life's what you'd call run-of-the-mill. We wake up, go about our jobs, come back, and do the family thing. Not exciting, but steady. Problem is, the steady's turned shaky lately. Mike, he's been rolling in late from work, looks like he's been through the ringer every time. Bags under his eyes, shirt wrinkled, and his mood stinks. Tried to get him to chat about it, crack that shell of his. But that man's locked up tighter than a bank vault. Mike, what's eating you? I asked him just last night. You're acting all sorts of strange these hours. He just glared at me, all red-eyed and frazzled. It's nothing, Jess. Work's a pain in the neck, that's all. Just lay off, okay? I know when to back off, but it's like a splinter in my mind, you know? He used to be straight with me, and now it's like I'm talking to a brick wall. You're not touching your dinner, Mike. What's up? I tried to nudge him at supper. Nothing fancy, just some meat and potatoes. But he barely poked at it. I said drop it, Jess. I ain't in the mood to chat about my day, he snapped back, pushing the plate away, and that end of discussion looked plastered on his face. Alex piped up from across the table, fork halfway to his mouth. Dad, you gonna come to my game this weekend? You said you'd try. Mike just ruffled Alex's hair, his attempt at a smile more like a wince. We'll see, champ. Your old man's got a lot on his plate right now. I watched them, father and son, an unsaid worry passing between them. That's my world right there, feeling like it might come apart at the seams. There's this static in the air every time Mike walks in late, a mix of sweat and something sour I can't place. He whispers about work stress, but there's a tug in my gut telling me it's more than that, a lot more. Mike's become like those puzzle pieces you find behind the couch, doesn't fit anywhere, doesn't make sense. And the more I push, the more he clams up. What gives? So there you have it. No sugarcoating, no dressing it up. Just our plain Jane life hitting a bit of a rough patch. I've got a kid to raise and bills to pay, and now a husband who's acting like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. Only thing is, he won't let me carry a piece of that burden. I'm out here trying to figure it out without letting on to Alex that there's trouble brewing. Gone. Just like that, Mike's car was history. Came home on foot, a look on his face I had trouble reading. Jess, he said, his voice jittery, the car's gone. Stolen. So, call the cops, Mike. My brother can sniff this out. Easy, I said. But he was shaking his head before I even finished the sentence. No way, I've got it covered, he insisted, but he wouldn't look me in the eyes when he said it. The whole thing smelled fishy. He'd never had good luck with cars, but stolen? That was a new one. Got it covered how? You got a private detective in your pocket or something? I teased, trying to lighten the mood, but Mike wasn't having any of it. Just back off, Jess. I said I'll handle it. His words came out harsh, and he walked off to the shower, leaving me standing there with a kitchen full of whys and what-ifs. His dad's car became his new wheels. You should have seen it, a battered thing that coughed more than it roared. Borrowing it for a while, he said, each word heavy like stones. We sat down at the kitchen table, the one with the wobbly leg, and I watched Alex, who looked more and more like his father every day, swinging his feet as he ate his cereal. He was itching to ask about the car, you could tell, but one look from me kept it shut tight in his mouth. Over the rattle of the morning news and Alex's spoon clinking, I decided to push one more time. We should report it, Mike. Insurance will eat us alive if we don't, I said, real casual. Mike slammed his mug on the table, coffee splashing out. Jess, for the last time, drop it. It's not your problem. Alex's feet stopped swinging, and that's when you know it's real bad, when a kid goes quiet all sudden like. The rest of the day was just nuts and bolts. Mike left in his dad's clunker, and I dropped Alex off at school, my head a mess with thoughts screaming in all directions. By the time I clocked into work, I had settled on one thing: I was going to find out what was going on, with or without Mike. Lunch break, my phone buzzed. It was my brother. "Jess, you okay? Heard about Mike's car. Need me to take a look?" he offered, always the protector, even though we're adults now. I wanted to say yes, tell him everything, but I hesitated. What if Mike was in deeper than just a stolen car? "I'll let you know," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady, like it was nothing, just a car gone AWOL, not my world tipping sideways. By the time I got home, the place was silent, no sign of Mike or his troubles. Only Alex at the table, scribbling away at his homework, the TV murmuring in the background. So, here we go again, another chapter in the life of Jess. A missing car, a husband with secrets, and a boatload of unanswered questions. Tomorrow's another day, but one thing's for sure: I can't just sit on my hands. I'm finding out what's going on, one way or another. Mike's not the only one good at keeping things tight under wraps. Ever seen someone there, but not there? That's Mike. Misses dinner, doesn't kiss Alex goodnight, turns invisible come bedtime. Acts like he's on another planet. The weekend rolled around, Alex ready for those bike rides they used to nail every Saturday morning. He's there, helmet on, excitement buzzing off him like bees on a hive. And nothing, Mike's locked away in the bedroom acting like he's turned to smoke. "Mike, come on. The kid's waiting. You promised." I yelled through the door, my hand gripping the knob so tight my knuckles got white. "I'm not up for it, Jess. Just take him, will you?" His voice a muffled surrender from behind the wood. Alex's face fell a mile. I shrugged, combed his hair back with my fingers. "Let's go, champ, just you and me this time." We hit the pavement, me pedaling behind him, watching those little legs pump like pistons. He's getting good, too good. Should have been his dad watching. After, over cold sandwiches, I lay it out for his folks. The stolen car, the late nights, the silence heavy as lead. They're good folks, made me feel like family since day one. They listened, hands clasped, a wrinkle of worry etched between shared glances. "Jess, kid's his age," his mom started, always the forgiving type. "They get like this. You ride it out. Midlife thing or not, he's riding out alone." I shot back, not buying any of this phase talk. "He's ditching his son, for God's sake." His dad chimed in, cutting the air with that old sense of authority he can't shake off. "Give the man space, Jess. We didn't raise him to bail on family." "Space? Feels like he's halfway to the moon right now." I fired off, done with sugarcoating bitter pills. They didn't have the answers, none of us did. So, I sat there, the kitchen clock ticking away, your standard awkward silence. They love him, but they're clutching at straws, just like me. Back home, I find Mike on the couch blanketed in shadows, the room dark except for the flicker of some late-night show. Alex is long asleep, dreams and all. "We need to talk, Mike. Now," I said, my voice steady as a drumbeat, every word a decision. He peels himself off the couch, tired or defeated, it's hard to tell. "What is it, Jess?" Mike huffs, like it's an effort just to stand. "I'm not blind, something's gnawing at you. It's eating us up, all of us." My words clipped out like bullets. Mike's eyes finally lift to meet mine, some spark in their fighting through the fog. "Jess, it's a mess you don't need to be in." "Oh, I'm in it, Mike. You made sure of that when you started sleepwalking through your life." I'd had it, my patience frayed to strands. He leans on the wall, for a sec, it looked like he'd slide to the floor. "I can't, not yet." That voice, a whisper of its regular self. "Okay, Mike, let's see how long you can keep up this act." I'm clawing for answers, and if Mike won't hand them over, I'll turn over every rock, every dark corner, until everything that's hidden starts spilling out into the light. For Alex, I'll do it. For us, I'll go the distance. The stillness of the night was shattered by the shrill ring of the phone. It was the sound that heralds news, seldom good. Mike's hand shot out to snatch it up, and the blood drained from his face as he listened to the voice on the other end. There were a few hushed, frantic words, and then silence. "Heart problems," he said, voice shaking, looking at me with eyes full of terror. "Dad's been taken to the hospital." Before I could even process the information, Mike was already dressed and darting for the door, his father's old car keys in hand. "Wait! I'll come with you!" I cried out, but he was gone. The door slammed behind him, and the sound echoed through the empty house like a grim reminder that I was now alone with my thoughts and the daunting tick-tock of the wall clock. Hours passed, each minute stretching longer than the last, anxiety my only companion. Doubt began to gnaw at me as I watched the moon trace its path across the sky. Against all instincts that screamed at me to stay put, I picked up the phone and dialed my mother-in-law. "Is everything okay with Dad?" I breathed into the phone when she picked up. There was a pause, a flicker of confusion in her voice. "What are you talking about, dear?" "He's right here, watching the late show with me." The room spun. "Mike, he told me there were heart problems, that Dad was taken to the hospital." "Oh, honey," she said, her voice laced with worry and something else, something akin to disbelief. "There's no hospital. There's no heart issues. Mike never said a word to us about going anywhere tonight." Bile rose in my throat. The betrayal stung like a slap in the face. My husband, the man who was supposed to be my partner in all things life threw at us, had lied straight to my face. "Mike left in a panic. Said it was urgent," I managed to say, my own voice sounding distant and foreign. "If he's not with you, then where?" "We'll figure this out," she cut in, her tone attempting reassurance that couldn't reach me. "You just stay there with Alex. We'll sort it all out." After I hung up, the silence of the house screamed louder than the ring of the phone ever did. The trust we had, the foundation we built our family on, felt like it had crumbled in an instant. Where was he, and why lie? The questions blazed in my mind, turning over and over without answers. The phone felt heavy in my hand as Ron's voice finally pierced through the static uncertainty. "Jess? What's this late call about?" Taking a breath to steady myself, I dove in. "Ron, Mike mentioned something about you, about a hospital. Is everything all right?" Silence enveloped the line for a brief moment before Ron replied. "Hospital? No, nothing like that. I'm fine, Jess." Why would Mike say that? A knot tightened in my gut, and I knew something wasn't right. "He said you had heart trouble. He took your car." "I'm worried, Ron." "All right, I can track where my car's gone off to," he offered after a pause. "Give me a moment." We hung up, and the ensuing wait filled the room like a thick fog. Alex's sleepy voice broke the silence with a question. "Is Grandpa okay?" I smiled reassuringly. "We'll know soon." True to his word, half an hour later, Ron's voice relayed through the phone. "The car's at the city hospital." A silent alarm went off in my head. "Thanks, Ron. We're going to check on this," I said, the last words shadowed by a chilling premonition. Grabbing our coats, I quickly dressed Alex. We shared no words on the matter, the gravity of our mission spoke loud enough. Together, we left the warmth of our home for the cool ambiguity of the night. The city's roads lay mostly empty as we made our way to the hospital, the silence in the car a stark contrast to the clamor of thoughts ricocheting in my mind. When we arrived in the parking lot, I found Ron's car, abandoned under the eerie glow of streetlights. "Do we go inside, Mommy?" Alex inquired, his innocence a striking contrast to the complexity of our situation. I took a deep breath, weighing the options. My instinct urged me to surge forward, to confront the mystery head-on, but caution whispered its words of prudence. The pieces didn't add up, and whatever awaited inside might be something I needed to face without Alex by my side. "We'll approach this together, but carefully, Alex. We'll go in, but we have to be prepared for whatever we might find." He nodded, his small hand finding mine, a gesture of silent solidarity. I took Alex by the hand, making sure he stayed close. "Remember, stay with me no matter what," I said to him as we walked towards the hospital entrance. The automatic doors slid open with a whoosh, and the sterile smell of the place hit my nose. You could never forget that hospital smell. We navigated through the corridors, my eyes scanning, looking for Mike. And then I saw him, just outside one of the rooms. He wasn't alone. I saw the woman first. Her arms cradling a newborn, looking tired and familiar. Mike looked like he had seen a ghost, his face drained of color the moment our eyes met. "What the hell, Mike?" I said, louder than I meant to. The woman stepped back, looking between us, holding the baby closer to her chest. "Who's she?" she asked, her voice blunt. Mike's eyes were glued to my face, his mouth opening and closing with no sound. "Jess, this is not what it looks like," he finally stammered out. "Really? 'Cause it looks pretty bad from where I'm standing," I shot back. The woman piped up again. "He sold his car. For us. To pay the bills here." Mike tried to interrupt, but I put my hand up. "I'm not talking to you right now." Turning to the woman, I asked, "How long has this been going on?" "A while," she said flatly, bouncing the baby slightly. "And the kid?" I couldn't even finish the sentence. "Yeah, he's Mike's," she confirmed, looking me right in the eye. I felt like I got punched in the gut. My head was spinning, and I could barely register Alex's hand squeezing mine. "Mommy, is the baby sick?" Alex's small voice brought me back to reality. "No, honey, the baby's fine," I said automatically, still trying to wrap my head around the mess. Mike finally found his voice. "Jess, please, let's talk about this." "Talk?" I almost laughed, but it came out like a bark. "You got a whole secret life here, and you want to talk? You should have talked before it got to this." Mike looked down, and I could see he was shaken, but right now I didn't care. "Jess, I can explain." "Save it, Mike. We're done here," I said, cutting him off. I grabbed Alex's hand and turned to leave. Mike reached out, trying to stop me, but I snapped at him. "Don't you touch me." Walking away, I could still hear him calling after me, but his words were just noise. Alex looked up at me with questions in his eyes, but I wasn't ready to answer them yet. We got to the car, and I strapped Alex into his seat, taking a moment to breathe. I could feel tears pricking my eyes, but I held them back. As we drove away from the hospital, away from the unwelcome surprise, I didn't know what was going to happen. But right then, I knew I had to be strong, for Alex. We barely got home when I saw Ron and Linda's car screech into the driveway. They came out fast, walking towards me like they meant business. Linda had that look, the one that meant trouble, big trouble. "Jess, what's going on?" Ron was the first to speak. His eyes were darting around, looking for Mike. "It's done, Ron. We're done. I'm filing for divorce." "The fairy tale's over," I said, not mincing my words. Linda stepped forward. "What the hell did that boy do now?" The anger in her voice hit the air like a slap. I barely had time to tell them everything. Mike's car pulled in, right on cue. He got out, slow, like he was walking to his own funeral. "What the hell, Mike?" Ron was on him like a hawk. "You've got that girl, with a baby." "A baby, Mike." Mike's head hung low, his voice was barely a whisper. "Dad, I'm sorry. I messed up." "Messed up? You call this a mess up?" Linda was almost screeching now. The woman from the hospital stepped out of Mike's car, baby in her arms, and everything just stopped for a second. The look on Ron and Linda's faces, it was like they saw a ghost. "Who's she?" Linda's voice was ice cold now. Mike looked like he was fighting back tears. She's someone I'd been seeing." "Seeing? While you have a family?" Ron's voice boomed. Linda chimed in, "And you got her pregnant while you're married to our daughter-in-law? And we find out at a hospital?" The woman stood there, silent, holding the baby closer when Linda's eyes shot daggers at her. This ain't sliding by, Mike. No way in hell, I snapped. Mike turned to me, desperation in his voice. Jess, please. Save it, I cut him off. Linda stepped forward. You're going to support this child. You're not walking away from this. But believe me, you're gonna pay for breaking our daughter-in-law's heart. Ron nodded. And we'll be right there with her, every step of the way. Mike just stood there, defeat written all over him. I'll do whatever it takes. You bet you will, Ron said, his anger settling into a grim resolve. I looked at all of them, my soon-to-be ex-husband, his mistress, his parents. My lawyer. Tomorrow. I want this settled. Fast. Ron and Linda gave me a nod. We've got your back, Linda said, and the look in her eye told me she meant every word. I turned on my heel, Alex's hand in mine, and walked back into our now broken home. Mike's voice followed me, saying sorry over and over, but it was too late for sorry. Life had sure done a number on us. But there I sat, on the porch swing, Alex curled up next to me, a math book opened on his lap. The sun was setting, the sky a mix of pink and gold, like a watercolor gone wild. How's homework going, kiddo? I asked, not ready to dive back into the adult world just yet. Alex shrugged. Okay, I guess. The numbers keep doing a dance though. Yeah, they do that sometimes. I chuckled, ruffling his hair. They'll settle down if you stare at them long enough. We laughed, the easy sound of it taking the edge off the day. Then the phone buzzed. I pulled it out of my pocket, a text from Linda. How are you holding up? It read. I smiled. Linda always had timing like a clockwork. Getting by. One piece at a time, I texted back. I looked out at the yard, thinking about how different life was now. Mike had taken a serious tumble from the life we once shared. His new place, a cramped apartment above a noisy bar, was a far cry from the house he'd left behind. He was pulling double shifts, trying to make ends meet, pay the alimony and whatever he owed to her. Mom, when's Dad coming around? Alex's voice pulled me from my thoughts. Haven't heard, buddy. But you know, we're doing pretty good, you and I answered. Yeah, just us. He smiled, and there was something in that smile that told me the kid was going to be all right. Then the other phone rang, the landline. Old school. It jarred the quiet of the evening. Alex jumped up to grab it. I got it, Mom. Careful there, Speedy. I called after him. I heard his little feet pound the hallway. The sound of his laughter as he chatted with whoever was on the other end warmed the space. He was a resilient little man. I took a deep breath. Mom, it's for you, he called out, his voice echoing. I picked up where he left off. Hello? Jess, it's me. Mike's voice was low, almost guilty. What can I do for you, Mike? My voice was colder than I intended. Are you both okay? His voice sounded like it carried the weight of the world. We're managing, Mike. Alex is doing great. There was silence, a long one, then a defeated sigh. That's good. That's good to hear. Mike, look, we're picking up the pieces here. You should be doing the same, I said, more firmly this time. I am, Jess. Or at least, I'm trying. Another pause. He was always heavy with the pauses. Goodbye, Mike. The click of the phone felt like the end of an era. It kinda was. I walked back onto the porch, the creak of the swing welcoming me back. Alex looked up, his eyes were curious. Life was indeed very different now. Just Alex and me, with Grandma and Grandpa popping in enough to keep us smothered in love and bad jokes. The house was quieter, but it was still full of us, our life, our laughter, our love. The days ahead would still have their challenges. Divorce papers don't wipe away the messiness of life, and co-parenting was a road we were still figuring out how to navigate. But that evening, as the sky turned from pink to a deep blue, a sense of peace settled over the house.